Adam, why does everyone hate recruiters?
Straight in there. How long have you got?
Go for it, man.
I don't know. It obviously goes back years, I'm assuming. I've only worked in the industry since 2017, but I think it comes down to salesmen in general. Like, people don't like sales calls, and if you're getting called off a recruiter, it's typically a sales call. I think people perhaps question the need for recruiters. And then I think there's a trust element to it as well, right? Like, do you actually have the best interests of the people you're working with at heart, or are you just trying to get a quick sale? Yeah, and then probably on LinkedIn as well. Recruiters maybe don't help themselves and haven't done over the years. So I think it's a combination of quite a few factors. Whether I think it's justified or not is probably a different conversation, but I think it's fair to say that recruitment doesn't have the best reputation.
No, I mean, I would agree with that. And I don't work in recruitment, and I've never have, but I came close to once. But I think you tapped into something quite interesting there around like the sort of salesmanship, because recruitment pretty much is selling people to people, right? People
trafficking, as my friends like to tell me.
I mean, we'll have to be careful with that kind of term, but like, I get what you mean. You're selling people to people, and people are products at the end of the day, aren't they? But it's that, and you place salespeople into roles as well, don't you?
Yeah, so I do rec to rec, which is recruiting recruiters into recruitment agencies.
Bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, tell me about it. And try explaining it to like every different family member at Christmas when they ask you what you do. But yeah, we place recruiters into recruitment agencies, but if they're looking for entry-level recruiters, they will often take people who've got a bit of sales experience, sometimes people who've got no experience whatsoever. But yeah, often salespeople into recruitment agencies, because obviously the two are transferable.
So the idea of placing salespeople into roles, like, what are people looking for when they're looking for a salesperson? Because everybody has their own idea of what sales actually means. You know, like, you know, is it closing? Is it prospecting? Is it actually like developing relationships, or is it all of the above? What kind of salespeople do you place mainly?
Yeah, so I think in terms of what they look for, if I was placing a salesperson into a recruitment agency, a lot of it will be the softer skills. You know, how well do they come across? How engaging are they? Because what they've been selling prior isn't that relevant. It's just like, can you do sales? Have you got the appetite for it? Have you got the thick skin for it? If you're asking me what people look for from recruiters, a lot of it comes down to your billings. So ultimately the revenue that you've generated for your business. And more often than not, it would be a combination of the things that you mentioned, you know, prospecting, closing, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the reputation has pretty much got to precede you then, basically, with what have you done before? But the people that don't have any experience, because I saw that you work with graduates as well.
Yeah.
Is that the majority of what you do, or is it a very small slice of what you do?
Probably a small slice. Most recruitment agencies that we work with don't really want to pay an external agency to find them trainee talent. They feel like they can do that themselves. In a lot of cases they can, in some cases they can't. But it's a small piece of what we do. Typically we place experienced recruiters. In terms of what people look for from graduates, I've kind of stole these things from a previous agency that I used to work for, because when they interviewed people, they would look for these core competencies. But I always look for resilience. Smash the microphone.
That's fine.
Resilience, an ability to influence, because it's a sales job, so you've got to be able to turn a no into a yes. Just general drive and motivation, like what gets you out of bed in the morning. You know, when times are tough, you're behind target, it's raining, it's dark outside, what's going to get you up and make sure you keep going? So there's got to be a strong why. And then finally, like an ability to learn, because I think you can have the gift of the gab all the soft skills in the world, but if you don't have the intelligence to pick up the nuances of recruitment, the nuances of your particular market, you just can't retain information that candidates and clients are telling you, you will struggle. So I do think it needs to be a combination of factors.
I think controversially these are lost skills.
Right.
I think they're becoming like fewer and fewer amongst the younger generation, like generally, like with things like resilience, and it's no fault of their own, really, I don't think. But to what extent would you agree with that, like, or disagree with that? Like, do you find that combination, that skill set, harder to find?
Yeah, massively.
Why?
And I don't want to talk like I've been in the industry for years. Like I've been in the industry, 8-9 years.
That's a decent amount of time, though.
Yeah, but I look back to how it was when I got into the industry. It was a lot more kind of, it was a lot tougher. It was, you needed a lot thicker skin. Those kind of environments are becoming fewer and far between, because people don't have that resilience. People, I don't know, I don't like using the word woke, but it's just people are a little bit softer. How dare you demand that I come in the office 5 days a week? Like, what about my work-life balance? Or, how dare you tell me that being behind target isn't good enough, so I need to put extra hours in? Like, what about my work-life balance? I do think we have massively gone away from the tougher, harsher environments. I think part of that's for the better, but I think part of that has led to a lot less resilience and thick skin.
There's a lot of people throwing around the word like toxicity and trauma, and those kinds of like quite invoking words. They're quite provocative words as well, actually, like, where we go, my workplace gave me trauma and all this kind of stuff. But what about you as an individual? Like, why did you go into the industry? Did you fall into it, or?
Yeah, I was listening to a previous podcast when you had a recruiter on, and she said the same. Everyone falls into recruitment. And I went to uni studying sports therapy, so effectively like wanted to be a physio. I kind of quickly lost interest in it, and in my third, you say why? As an industry, it's like you could go to like 3 or 4 different physios, for example, and get 3 or 4 different diagnoses, and ultimately, like, you're never really that sure until you have like an MRI scan. If you're really, really good, you can rule a lot of things out, and that's what it all was. It was like ruling things out. But I didn't really enjoy it. I wasn't particularly good at it, and I realised as well that to get anywhere in it, I would need to do loads of like placements at like different sporting clubs on a Saturday afternoon, a Wednesday evening, or whatever. And I play a lot of sport myself, and I didn't want to give that up. So I was like, this probably isn't going to work in the long term.
Were you not advised of that before you took the degree on?
I probably should have done a bit more research into it. Yeah.
Well, was that on you, or was that on the people, the advisors around you that?
I would probably say that's on me, really, to look into that and speak to people and know more.
That's interesting, though, because like just regarding the whole sort of like university thing, and I know you work with graduates as much as it might not be a big part of your business, but people just seem to take any kind of uni degree and just think, I mean, that's a bit of a generalization, but I'm thinking of myself as well, like, take a uni degree because that's kind of what's expected of you, or is it just a way of biding time before you actually have to get into the workplace?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very much like the expected path that you should take. I remember when me and my brother were quite smart at school, got decent GCSEs. My brother went to college, dropped out of college, ended up being an electrician. One of the best decisions he's made.
Smart move. Yeah.
I remember him being downstairs telling my dad he was dropping out of college, and my dad wasn't happy. And then about a year into my college life, I wasn't enjoying it at all, and I tried dropping out. I was like, Dad, I want to be a plumber. And he was just like, no chance, like, you're not doing it. So off to uni I went, and look, 3 of the best years of my life from an experience point of view. But my degree has absolutely zero relevance to what I do now. it's taught me a lot in terms of like health and fitness, that skills that I use, but not really in my professional life. I think if anything, it teaches you how to stick at something, how to research, how to collaborate with others and do group work and stuff like that. Obviously, you have to go into a brand new environment, completely out of your comfort zone, and make friends with new people, live with new people. Helps you be quite social. If you join sports teams and stuff like that, you become a lot more self-aware, and you can laugh at yourself, and all stuff like that, I suppose, is transferable to recruitment. But in terms of the specific education side of things, it's had very little relevance on what I do now.
It's interesting that, because I completely relate to that. It's the softer skills, like the social elements, the experiential side of it. Mm-hmm. But it really is the most expensive kind of experience that you're gonna ever pay for. And personally, I think the system is broken in terms of what it is right now. But coming back to what makes you good for going into recruitment, what do you think? What do you think it is about you that was good about it? I mean, I know you fell into it, but clearly you did well, and you ended up going out on your own as well.
I think first thing, like, I nearly quit several times in my first year. Like, I found it really, really tough. Did actually have interviews to leave, and then when it came down to it, I just thought, you know what, I've got a bit left in me yet. I suppose it's coming from an upbringing of, my dad would never let me quit anything easily. I always look back, I used to go to like Beavers and Cubs, and I always wanted to quit, and my dad was just like, no, you going, kind of thing. And I don't like quitting. I don't want to, go and look my dad in the eye and say, yeah, I've got this new job, and I've quit within 6 months, or, your mates, it's embarrassing, right? If you can't hold a job down, or you're not having much success. So I've got quite a strong inner drive to be successful and not just be a plodder. I want to have a nice life and create that for myself. So that's kind of what drove me. In terms of what allowed me to have success in recruitment, I think I'm quite thick-skinned. Probably comes from playing a lot of team sport in quite harsh environments, where if you can't kind of have the piss taken out of you, and then you're going to struggle. And also, like, I play, you face setbacks in sport all the time. I think that's definitely stood me in good stead. But yeah, I suppose it's that resilience piece, quite self-aware, don't like quitting, that has allowed me to have some degree of success in recruitment.
It sounds like your dad was quite pivotal in that experience. Like, your dad mixed with sport. It sounds like that combination together was kind of what set you up. Yeah,
I think that's fair to say. Yeah, it's like a therapy session. This.
Good. No one's ever called it that before. Mastering therapy podcast.
He's never been one of those parents who would like really pump up my tires. Like, if I had a great game at football, he'd be like, yeah, but you could have done this, you could have done that. He'd always kind of, he was not like ultra harsh or anything like that, but he would never let me get ahead of myself, and always kind of remind me that, yeah, but what about this? What about that? So that probably made me quite resilient, and always, I suppose, wanting to think kind of what's next, and you can never rest on your laurels as such, because it could all be over any second. Like, particularly now running the business, like, what drives me is the thought of it all like coming crashing down any second. Like, you're only ever a COVID away from going bump or something like that. So I suppose, yeah, that has definitely been instilled in me from him. It certainly had a big impact.
The team sport's really interesting as well, because someone I worked with, he's very prolific. Actually, he's quite a very successful entrepreneur, and he says business is a team sport, and I 100% agree with him. Obviously, you can't really do it on your own; you need people around you, but it's the actual experience of team sport bringing to business, which I find really interesting.
Yeah.
Having played multiple sports in my life as well, like you can see the crossover.
Yeah.
Just out of interest, what sports did you play?
So I played football and cricket growing up.
Right.
Cricket's kind of took over in recent times. But yeah, they're my main two.
Yeah, cricket's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's a real blend of team plus individual effort, isn't it? Like especially at the moment with the India Test series on at the moment as well. Yeah,
you're right. I think what's good about cricket, particularly me as a batter, perhaps because I'm not that good of a batter, you fail more times than you succeed. So you've got to become okay with that and stay level, stay consistent. And if you're the sort of guy who is in the bar buying everyone drinks because you've got some runs, and then the next 6 innings when you've not scored a run, you sat on your own or you're getting off early, you're not particularly fun to be around. You've got to try and stay level, and I think that definitely helps just in life, right?
I think it's a really good analogy for being a business owner.
Yeah.
Being at the crease.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the life of a business owner. You're getting balls whacked at you, all the time, and it's only occasionally you're going to be able to hit a boundary.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're just batting them away. I mean, this is a massive cricket analogy right now, but like,
I think certainly like just your performance as a batsman week in, week out, like you fail a lot more than you succeed. So it's still sticking to the process.
It's the successes that people concentrate on, isn't it? It's not the multiple times you've had to bat away problems. And I'm really extending this analogy now, but I'm really liking it because I'm a massive cricket fan. So.
That could be a whole another podcast.
It could be. It really could be. I mean, So we'll try and sort of put that to one side a little bit. But what about your people skills then? So like, obviously from the team sport sort of experience, how has that affected how you are with people? Like, are you an extrovert? Are you a mixture of both? Or do you get your energy from being around people, or do you like your alone time?
Good question, and one I don't really know the answer to. I wouldn't say I'm a massive extrovert. I'm quite shy until I know people, but like confident when I'm in an environment where I kind of know what I'm talking about. In terms of my people skills, like that's something I kind of feel like I work on and have to work on constantly. Like naturally quite selfish. And when you're managing a team, you've kind of got to put everyone else in front of yourself. And if you don't, and if your kind of urge for your team to be successful all comes and is clearly just coming down to you wanting to boost the bottom line, I think it shines through and they'll see through it. So I think you've got to have a genuine interest in other people succeeding, and put other people's interests before your own. And look, that's like an ongoing thing. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but I try and kind of get better at that and leadership day after day. But I make tons of mistakes on a daily basis because you're just constantly confronted with different scenarios. Like if people are underperforming, is it arm around the shoulder, or are they getting too much flexibility? Do they need a kick up the arse? Like it's a constant balancing act. Am I being too harsh on them? Am I being too soft with them? I'm in a bad mood today. Do they deserve the brunt of this bad mood or not? Like that's something that constantly I have to juggle with, or wrestle with, sorry, when it comes to kind of managing people and people skills. It
is one of the hardest things, managing people. But I guess, we all wrestle with that, and we've all kind of got that inner monologue when it comes to managing people. So when it comes to the business you have now, tell me a little bit about the business that you've got right now and how that formed.
Yeah, so business is called AT Talent. We recruit recruiters into recruitment agencies in Manchester and London. So there's myself and Jamie own the business. Jamie's a bit more operational, so isn't kind of hands-on day-to-day doing the sales element of it. Me and Lauren, we recruit in Manchester. Chris and Grace recruit in London. a typical day would look like, you're speaking to clients, finding out if they've, what their needs are within their teams. Ultimately, if they want to hire more recruiters, finding out what those ideal hires look like. And then we're going out speaking to recruiters that are in jobs or looking to break into the industry, getting an understanding of their situation, what would ever tempt them into a move, and kind of matching the two together. That's put really simply.
Why do people move into recruitment now? Like, what's the appeal?
I think the main ones are like money. You can earn life-changing money in quite a short space of time. Obviously, life-changing, bit of a sweeping statement, right? But I know as a 23-year-old lad earning 19 grand a year in my first recruitment job, if you'd have told me that I had the potential to earn six figures within a few years, that's life-changing to me. So I think the money, firstly. I think it's a career where you're offered a lot of progression. So in a lot of industries, you're waiting for somebody who's in the position above you to potentially retire or leave for you to be eligible for a promotion. In recruitment, it's laid out black and white, 9 times out of 10. Here's what you need to do to achieve a promotion. If you build this much money in this period of time, you'll get promoted to this level. That will come with a step up the rank in terms of seniority, pay rise, bigger target, etc. So money progression. I think it's quite a fast-paced environment as well. Now that's cliche, right? But I've never really clock watched in recruitment. You're constantly spinning multiple plates, whether it's speaking to candidates, speaking to clients, sending out a CV, booking an interview, taking interview feedback, chasing leads, whatever it may be. That it keeps you on your toes. It's fast paced. It's quite an exciting environment. And then also it's quite a young, dynamic culture. So you're, especially for grads first getting into the professional world, you're not going into an office full of people who are, waiting to collect the pension, waiting how long till I can retire. It's often full of young people from sporting backgrounds. So the atmosphere is often quite good, quite dynamic, fun and social as well. A lot of, lunch clubs and holiday incentives where you're going abroad to all sorts of swanky places. And I would say those 4 things tend to be the attraction these days. You often hear people saying, I just like the idea of helping people. How true that is, I don't know. When people say that, I don't know if they say it just because it's what they think the hiring managers want to hear. A lot of hiring managers don't like hearing that. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn there, but the reason being is that if your main driver is helping people, there's much easier jobs out there where you can fulfill that than recruitment. Be
a counsellor or therapist,
many
or
things.
Podcast host, apparently. But I question that too. Like, I think that generally, actually, with a lot of business owners, when they say, I love helping people, it's like, okay, well, if you could do that for free, would you still do it?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the answers would be different. So, but it's a view, it's an opinion. That's absolutely fine. Do you just quickly? Do you tend to hire more people that come from sport backgrounds just as an unconscious thing, or is that a conscious decision that you've made?
So me personally, we've only made 3 hires, so I'll speak more on behalf of what we get asked to recruit for. And I would say, it's definitely a conscious thing. People ask us to find people from sporting backgrounds because of the transferable skills. It shows that you've committed to something, that you've had success, you've stuck at something, you've been part of a team environment, so it's not going to be alien to you being in a recruitment office where there's banter flying around and stuff like that. So we do get specifically asked to look for people from that kind of background.
And people come to you to ask you to do that because of that, or is that, do you know of competitors or other people in your space that tend to have this sort of similar methodology as well?
It's more just recruitment in general. Typically, when you speak to hiring managers, they will not specifically say, I want someone from a sporting background. Right. It's more like softer skills. People from sporting backgrounds tend to have a lot of success here and in recruitment in general. So if you do have if you do find someone and that's the sort of background they've got, we like that.
Right.
So it's not like go and specifically target them, but it's often said to us that they like people from those kind of backgrounds.
And how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
31.
So, and you started in the industry when you were
23.
So if you could go back and speak to 23-year-old Adam, what advice would you give him for going into the recruiter to set you up to be, to hit the road flying? Like just in case anybody's watching this and they're thinking about getting into recruitment or even thinking about a switch, what advice would you give 23-year-old Adam, like, to make sure that you were built for success?
It's mainly just that stickability piece, the knowledge of how hard it is constantly, the amount of setbacks you are going to face, and how hard your first year is in particular, and just to stick at it. To be fair, most people will tell you the same thing when you get into the industry. I'm just glad that I did stick it out, because I came very close to not doing. In terms of like any particular skills and nuances to recruitment, I think there's no substitute for experience. So yeah, in answer to your question, it would just be that stickability piece. Although I do wish that I'd have had the benefit, and this would never have happened, right? But I wish I could almost go back now to working in the first agency I worked in, having had the experience of running my own business, because I think I would look at a lot of the things that went on there through a very different lens, a probably much more positive lens, if that makes sense.
I think it does. I think it's a really good point, actually, because the weird thing is that a lot of business owners, once they've kind of seen the other side, they almost become unemployable. Because they know too much. They know too much about what's going on. But I think on the other side of that, you can have an incredible amount of empathy.
Yeah.
You can understand what that business owner is going through, the challenges, the shitstorm basically that they are probably going through every day just to make payroll, make things work, keep the office alive, and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's quite interesting in those people that potentially have run a business and then go back into employment, or even as a sort of senior member of that business. I think that's quite interesting, because the economy is getting tough, and people are, I think I heard a stat that something around like 50,000 businesses right now are under threat from closing because of all the changes that the Labour government have made. And this isn't a dig; it's just facts. And therefore, there are probably going to be business owners that are going to go, well, what do I do next?
Yeah.
And it might be a pride thing where they go, I'm not going to go back into employment, but some of them probably will be able to swallow their pride a little bit and go into. So for those people, potentially, recruitment could be a great prospect, do you reckon?
Yeah. Like I said, I think you have, you said it, you have a lot more empathy for what running a business entails. I think sometimes in recruitment, well, I know this for a fact, that if you're a good biller, the assumption is that you can just go and set up on your own. A lot of people have done it. A lot of people have had a lot of success doing it, but there are other things that come with it. I look back now at my time at Energize was my first business, and I used to kind of moan about the KPIs. I felt it was quite micromanaged at times and stuff like that. And then I look back now and think, it wasn't like they were on it in terms of the data, and like you have to be on top of the numbers, and they were fair. And a lot of what I learned at Energize, not just about recruitment, just about running a business and leadership, I now implement at AT Talent. So those people could 100% go back into a recruitment business. I think they will be much better for the experience. Often the difficulty lies in, one, does a business want to hire someone that entrepreneurial because they fear that they may just go and set up on their own again. So you've got to imagine you bring someone in who's had their own business already, knows how to set up a business, is obviously quite entrepreneurial. He comes to your business, he learns the market, he speaks to all your clients. Obviously, you're going to have non-competes in place and stuff, but he's just learning that market on your time. Is he just going to run off and do the same again? That often is a stumbling block. and is a blocker for people who have owned businesses getting back into recruitment agencies. That's another thing that drives me, because I'm like, there's not a massive appetite for recruitment business owners back in agencies.
It's really interesting, actually, because I mean, you know, we all have the potential to like choose our own path and you know, make a success of it. But yeah, it's that fear of going back, and you know, like you say, like the lack of appetite for potentially. But I think that, you know, I think any business owner would be weighing that up as the cons, but there'll be a lot of pros to having that kind of person back in, and whether or not they're genuine as well. Like, you know, they want to go in and actually be an important cog in an existing business, I guess.
100%. I think we've typically struggled with people like that for the first reason that I've mentioned. Second being, like, you know, you get a slice of working for yourself, you get a big slice of the pie, or as big a slice as you want, right? So you get used to earning
after tax.
Yeah. you get used to earning a decent amount of money on your own. Are you then going to go back to another business and take a smaller salary? Also, when you work for yourself, let's say it's just a one-man band, you retain pretty much everything you earn, so you don't need to bill as much. Let's say if I bill 300 grand for one business, I'll probably earn 100 grand. If I build 300 grand for myself, I'm going to take home nearly 250 grand of it or something. So these people who go out on their own, their billings drop often because they don't need to bill as much. But then you're then trying to get another job. You're comparing yourself to somebody who's been working for someone else. Your billings don't really stack up. So all these things combined do often make it quite difficult. However, like, you know, Chris in our London teams found quite a niche in like the senior London market, and he has placed a few people that have had their own businesses and want to step back in. So it's definitely doable. But just for anyone out here, I suppose, watching it, who's got a recruitment business and is considering going back in working for an agency, they are some of the things you're going to come up against and need to be mindful of.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, because I've not got a crystal ball, but the tide is definitely turning, and the idea, the attraction of becoming a business owner is just not the same as it used to be. You know, you are taxed within an inch of your life, and you know, more and more people actually want to go out on their own and not necessarily work for a small business and that kind of thing. So yeah, no, that's really interesting. With your previous jobs then, would you say the people that you used to work for, were they good mentors to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was really quick. So
yeah. Good. No, it's funny. I was at my old boss and another really senior guy from within the business. I was at a wedding with him a couple of weeks ago, and it was great to catch up with him. And like, I was telling my missus, like, this is the first boss I've ever had in recruitment. If this ever gets clipped up, it'll absolutely ruin me for saying stuff like this.
But I'm going to find out who it is. I'm going to send him it. Yeah.
He was. So Ben Jackson was my first boss in recruitment, and again, so many of the ways in which I recruit now came from him. His kind of method came from Craig, who owns the business, and they're a really good business. They do things the right way, and yeah, I'm so thankful that I had that grounding in recruitment, because it made you kind of realize how tough recruitment is, and there's no getting away from it. Like, you would not be successful there unless you put the hours in, you worked hard, you know, you put the number of cold calls in, you worked the long hours, but it allowed me to go on and have a decent amount of success there. I think at my business now, I've kind of always ran it how I wanted to work, and that probably does a bit of a... I sometimes wish that the guys who work for us could have had the grounding in recruitment I had before coming to us, because they don't realise how easy they've got it at times. Like, just in terms of the targets and the intensity that like I demand from them. Like, I could definitely demand more. Yeah, but it's a tough balancing act.
I completely feel that, and I think something that was kind of drilled into me, like from previous bosses as well, is that they would never ask me to do something that they've never done before. Yeah, you know, they've gone through that and done it, and I certainly have a lot more empathy with how they ran the business and kind of understand it a little bit more. But was that business that you worked for then with Ben Jackson and Craig, was it a smallish business?
I suppose it depends what you constitute as small. I think when I joined,
like headcount.
Yeah, headcount wise, when I joined, it would be, again, guessing it, I reckon 30-ish heads. They are about 40, 50 now. They obviously, I don't want to speak on behalf of them, but had this grand plan to get to like 250 employees by 2025, and then COVID hit.
Right.
So they've had to scale back, as have so many recruitment businesses. So I don't think that's necessarily the goal anymore. But yeah, in terms of headcount, they were at about 40 heads by the time I left, something like that.
So you had quite close connections to the owners then, and
yeah,
were they on the floor with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you'd be sat amongst them. You'd be on like lunch clubs out together and stuff like that. It was quite a tight knit, good crowd, good culture.
Yeah, the reason I ask that and I want to find that out is because I think that's really, really important. Like, especially if you're new going into a business. You want to be within close contact of the owner, or at least a senior person, because you're learning from the people that are setting it up. You've got that close connection. You're listening to those phone calls. You're learning, and this is the general problem that a lot of people have with work from home. Is that you don't have the connectivity anymore. You don't have the proximity within that. And did that help you?
Yeah. 100%, and that's the whole work from home debate, right? And that is a real topic of contention in recruitment. But I completely agree. You have to, particularly when you're new to the industry, you have to be around people, listening to people, speaking to clients, speaking to candidates every day, like learning through osmosis. It's subconsciously going to be going in. If you're at home, you just can't have that. I think if you are a trainee, again, this might be an unpopular opinion, but if you're a trainee going into a fully remote recruitment role, I think you're almost like destined to fail, because you're not learning enough. There's only so much you can learn sat in your bedroom on your own. Yeah. I fully appreciate that there's a place for work from home. Like we do 3 days in the office, 2 days from home. I'm not saying that's the right balance. I think it depends on the experience of the person. But yeah, going back to it, as a trainee, certainly sub 18 months experience, you need to be in the office as much as possible to give yourself the best chance of doing well.
Yeah, I personally fully agree with that.
Yeah.
Like I think once you get past a certain level, then you can be a bit more flexible. But yeah, listening to those phone calls, getting that connectivity with the owners and things, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Well, what's next for your business then? Like, obviously, how long has it been running now?
So it was 3 years in April. So what? Yeah, just over 3 years. What's next? Obviously, so we've got somebody starting on August the 11th. So that'll be our 6th kind of member of staff, which is exciting. It's just to continue to grow, really, but in a sustainable way. I want everyone to be smashing it together. I want the guys who come and work for us to keep getting promotions, be earning good commission. I want everyone to kind of be doing well, but the key is doing it like sustainably. As you said, like we're in fairly uncertain times, and I'm quite a cautious person by nature, so it's just a case of making sure everyone's doing well, and then it's like, right, we can add another one, and then we can add another one. So that is where I want it to go from a business point of view. Just keep sustainably growing, everyone succeeding. But also I want us to keep kind of getting our name out there in the market. I think we've done quite a good job in the 3 and a bit years that we've been running in establishing ourselves in Manchester and London in the rec-to-rec space. I've heard you spoke about personal brand on previous podcasts, and that's something we've really pushed in the last 18 months. It's been huge for us. Just more video content, stuff like that. So continuing to get our name out there, and look, everyone wants to be the market leader in what they do, right? That's the goal, but it's very hard to quantify, isn't it? So continue to be recognised as being good at what we do, whilst succeeding internally would be good.
Obviously this is very off the cuff, this question, but like, what do you see the roadmap for, would it be yourself being that sort of like the face of the business, or would it be your business partner, or is it a combination of both? Like, you know, in terms of being the face of the business, because obviously recruitment is a very sort of personable business, you know, so there has to be a face of the business, and people buy from people, don't they? So, you know, do you see yourself being more of the face of the business moving forward?
Definitely more than my business partner, Jamie. And that's just kind of the agreement we have, because he has another business as well, another recruitment business that takes up a lot of his time. But I think recruitment is quite unique in terms of, you know, each person almost runs a business within a business. So everyone has their own desk and everyone has their own personal brand. So I don't see it really as me being the face of the business and me being the one who drives the business forward. Like, we are all in it together. Like, we all do the video content together. We all have our own followings on our own LinkedIn pages. We collaborate and we discuss what's working, what isn't, what's the best way to kind of distribute this batch of videos that we've just recorded. But I think it's really important for everyone to have their own kind of personal brand again, because them getting themselves out there, it's going to enable them to do more sales themselves, right? And then us to do more as a business. If I was just doing it all on my own, I couldn't do it. There's only so much like one person can bill.
Yeah, I mean, the traditional thought is that, you know, within a business, you kind of set up like a bit of a pyramid, and you have the personal brand at the top, and it filters down, and the opportunities flow from that person. But what you're saying there is it's a bit more of an interconnected thing, where you've all got your own personal brands, which I completely agree with. Actually, I do think everybody needs. I mean, the term personal brand is obviously up for debate.
Yeah.
You know, but that sort of being able to, you know, scale yourself really, like digitally, and have that brand and people know what you stand for, I think is really important. But what you're saying there is that you're a bit more interconnected. You're all going out in your own little directions, but you're still a tight-knit team. Yeah,
and look, it's important, I think, to be on the same page. I think, you know, our kind of tone and the impression that we give off in our space is quite casual, don't take ourselves too seriously. I think if one person was going really against that, it wouldn't quite work. But that comes down to hiring, right? And making sure everyone's kind of got the same values and is on the same page. And at the minute that works quite well. And yeah, in terms of, since we've started having a real big push on that, our inbound business has really improved.
So you've seen a noticeable uplift
100%.
Since making more of an effort with your personal brand.
Yeah, so just in terms of like posting on LinkedIn every day almost, and that's a mixture of, you know, talking to your market, educating your market on what's going on, showing that you're knowledgeable and the people to speak to in your market, but also getting your own personality across, whether it be posted about cricket at the weekend or whatever, what you had for tea. More importantly, it's just the consistency aspect of it. So yeah, consistently posting. And then we started doing a lot more video content as well. So we've got a videographer, a guy called Cole, who's brilliant. And he comes in maybe once every month or two, and we'll just record a number of different videos, some funny, some informative, about the market or whatever. And we distribute those over our socials over 2 months. And that's just massively increased our following.
Fantastic. I think it's that whole thing of like, you know, opportunity follows visibility, doesn't it? You know, if you're not visible in the market, you know, you might as well not be there.
That's
it,
yeah.
Unless you're doing the hard yards and cold calling, but
you're just making it hard. You do more work than you need to be doing, right? If that's your approach. Like if you just opt into call, there's a place for cold calling. This is a whole different topic as well, but like, what I'm saying is, with the branding piece, we're just getting ourselves in front of people consistently, so that when we do call them, we've almost got a foot in the door already, because they feel like they know us.
I was just about to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Is it cold calling, or are you actually calling people that are warm?
Yeah,
because of your personal brand?
My take on cold calling is that, like, if you're good at your job, the calls won't be cold. So that comes from if you've got a really good candidate, for example, and you know from speaking to another candidate that this particular company is hiring for a senior tech recruiter, right, who's got 2 years experience, because that's what this one particular candidate was, who turned a job down there. Then you come across another candidate that fits that mold to a T. You ringing that company and telling them about that candidate is not a particularly cold call, because you've already got loads of information about the business. You've got the perfect candidate for them based on market intel that you've gathered. So it's not like ringing somebody up off a Yellow Pages and asking if they've got any jobs. If you're having to resort to that, there's other things that you could be doing. Does that make sense?
For the younger people that are potentially listening to this, the Yellow Pages was a massive stack of a book that would contain, like, it was a business directory. Basically, it was a physical Google, wasn't it? And I can't believe I'm actually having to describe that. But I used to stand on them as a kid. So, mainly to make prank calls, actually, but weirdly enough. But I think that's interesting, and I think a lot of people, weirdly, if you don't mind me pushing back, I think a lot of people would disagree with you with the cold calling thing, because they don't know you, so therefore it is cold. Okay. But you're coming armed with a lot of information, so that rapport can be built really quickly, right?
Yeah, and I also
so it's not going to be cold for long. Basically,
I think I'm a big believer in digital touch points as well. Definitely. So before you ring them, you may have corresponded with them in a number of different ways before actually speaking to them. View the profile, drop them a message, email them a bit of content, spec a candidate in on email, for example. So when I say spec a candidate in, you anonymously send a profile that you're working with that's almost like, you're showcasing the kind of talent you're working with. So yeah, it will still be the first time you spoke to them, but that's a hell of a lot warmer than
that. Well, in that respect, then it wouldn't be cold, would it? Because you've had some touch points ahead of time.
So that would always be part of the cadence that I would advise. Yeah, like digital touch points, not just ringing people from cold. It's weird with
the sort of like the phone call thing, because there's people I follow that basically say, there's people who absolutely are adamantly still very much in favor of cold calling and that kind of approach, and it works for them. It definitely does. But then there's other people on the other side that go, people don't want to be phoned anymore. Mm-hmm. The phone call should be the last thing that you actually do, because they want that digital warm up. And which side of the fence are you on?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't really know which side of it I sit on. I think ultimately sales is a numbers game. So I know our guys would bring on way more business if they sat there every day and called through a list of recruitment agencies in Manchester or London, trying to pitch them candidates that we're working with. One, nobody really likes doing that. Two, is it the most efficient use of the time? So yes, I believe there's a place for cold calling. I think, if you put in loads of cold calls every day, you will have success from it, but there are more than one way to skin a cat, right? And there are other ways around it, and other ways around bringing business on that could be more efficient.
I guess it's finding what works for you and what's scalable for you. I mean, one of the people that I've spoken to before around cold calling, he has this kind of thing, and if he's watching, he'll know immediately that I'm talking about him. But he, no one ever died from making a phone call.
No.
It's not the worst thing in the world to do. And I think actually, we're talking at the beginning about resilience. How much of that resilience that you have now has been because you've potentially made those 100 phone calls for 3 months on end?
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And I look back and I'm so glad I went through that. I just think it's about being smarter. It's a balance, right? I don't think the best way to go about anything is just to get a list of 100 clients and ring through them. Whilst you would have some success from that, I think you'd probably have more success if you had your multiple digital touch points beforehand and then called them. But it's about balancing it out, isn't it? Like, too many people sit on far too of an extreme side of that, and will just hide behind emails and LinkedIn messages and digital touch points. You do have to pick up the phone eventually, but I think there are things you can do before picking up the phone that will make your life a lot easier. But you can't just be one or the other, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's something weirdly I used to do. So a while ago, I used to work in the sort of like leisure, the hotel leisure trade, but for group bookings. And I used to, and I don't know if it was like a done thing. I thought it was kind of unique to me, but I would have an email database, and I would just send out like a mail merge to all of the hotels that I wanted to speak to at some point. And then I'd have my hierarchy of hotels that I thought would be most appropriate.
Yeah.
And then just go through each single one and just go, I'm just calling about the email I sent about 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Have you read it yet? Would you like the booking? No, I wouldn't. Right, fine. I'll pass on to the next one.
If you'd, let's say you sent 200 out, if you'd had 10 replies, they'd be your first port of call,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And they're the warmer calls.
Yeah.
So by doing that initial mail merge, whatever you want to call it, e-shot, you massively giving yourself a leg up.
Yeah, and that's what I thought at the time. I thought I was being lazy, actually. I thought I was being time efficient, as I would call it. But actually it was just working smarter, I think. But, looking back on it. But I think what I'm trying to say is that I think that you're right in what you're saying, like those digital touch points, even if it is an email, a LinkedIn message, as, people like personable messages. They like to feel like it was sent to an audience of one, but we only have so many hours in a day, don't we?
I think stuff like emails, e-shots and all this stuff gets a bit of a hard time, just like cold calling does. There's a lot of like gurus out there on LinkedIn, and ultimately there's a place for it all. It's what works for you, what works in your market. There isn't a silver bullet, so I'm quite reluctant to sit here and say this is the best approach, because I can only speak for what works for us and what has worked in the past. But I've no doubt that there are markets where it might just need to be a case of just bash through the phones. Like it's what works for you ultimately.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, I mean, just what you've said there about like, what works for you, and, talking about gurus and things. And that's kind of one of the reasons we do this podcast, is because, as much as we've got people who are potentially further along in the journey giving advice, actually, we quite like the advice of people who are only a few years into the journey, because it's still relatable. So, I mean, that's kind of like what I would ask you next, really, is like someone wanting to set out their own business or wanting to grow their own business, whether it be in recruitment or anywhere else. What advice would you give them, which is currently working for you? Like, what are you focused on as either tactic or a strategy to help you grow your business? What levers should they be pulling to grow?
I suppose anyone setting up a business, and this doesn't just go for recruitment, I think it's in any walk of life, you have to be confident in your ability to win enough business to keep your business afloat. So if you're a recruiter specifically looking to set up on your own, when you go on your own, bear in mind you probably have a non-compete in place, so you can't work with all the clients that you've just been working with. Are you going to be able to get vacancies on from the get-go and fill them? And if you are, then you need to start asking yourself, right, well, are you aware of what comes with running a business? Are you prepared to do that? Are you aware of, how it might affect your time that you can spend on actually recruiting? So they'd be the two questions I'm asking myself. In terms of like our ability to grow, ultimately we'll always be driven by the numbers. If we have enough vacancies and we just can't find enough people, providing we have enough money to bring people in and pay them and not have to put them in under unnecessary pressure, then we will continue to grow. But I think it all comes down to, is the business out there for you? Are you confident in your ability to get sales? Because there's always going to be candidates out there in recruitment, but like, are people hiring? And if people are constantly coming to us saying we need this person, we need that person, then we know that we can get people and fill those jobs.
Love that. I think what's kind of coming from this conversation is that sales is key.
Yeah.
Sales is key, but sales is a very bundled term, and with sales comes proactivity, resilience, confidence, all those kinds of things. And would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm quite passionate about like not being a silver bullet. Like, you to be successful in sales, you might be quite reserved and not necessarily the most brash and confident, for example, but like there are certain characteristics that you must have, I suppose, and certain things that you must stick to in order to allow you to be successful. But you don't have to do everything. You don't have to be the complete Jack the Lad, gift of the gab type character. Yeah, and I think if there's less people out there, I suppose, saying this is the right way to do it, and more kind of acceptance that there are multiple ways to do things, I think there'd be a lot less like comparison, and maybe people getting a little bit down because they're not where they thought, or they're not doing it the way that this particular guru suggests you should do it. I think, it's just that awareness that there's many ways to do things.
Thanks very much for your time, mate.
Well, thanks for having me.
Honestly, loved that conversation. It was really good. Where can people find you? And if they want to do business with you or just connect with you, like, where can they find you?
Probably LinkedIn, best place to find me. So yeah, Adam Holt on LinkedIn, AT Talent. Just drop me a message. Always happy to chat about recruitment. I love talking about recruitment. Even anyone like just considering starting out on their own. 3 years in, very, very appreciative of the fact that we're nowhere near where we want to be yet, but it's daunting taking that first step. So would be more than happy to kind of discuss that with someone considering it.
Excellent, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.